Ethan floated in the quiet hum of the research vessel Odyssey, staring at the endless expanse of stars through the observation window. The hum of machinery, the soft click of buttons, and the occasional beep of the navigation console were the only sounds that broke the silence. To anyone else, it might have seemed lonely, but Ethan loved it. There was a thrill in the unknown, in drifting among worlds no human had walked before. "Captain, we're receiving a message from the Andar cluster," the ship's AI, Luma, said in her soft, melodic voice. Ethan turned, adjusting his headset. "Show me," he said. On the holo display, a message from the Alien Council flickered to life. The translation protocol converted their intricate symbols into English words. "Human males are undervalued across your species. We are curious to meet one firsthand." Ethan blinked. Undervalued? Humans? Seriously? He rubbed his eyes. "I thought we were average, at least." "Apparently not," Luma said, with a hint of amusement in her tone. "The aliens consider human males rare and intriguing. They wish to observe and understand your kind." Ethan chuckled nervously. "Observe me? Great. I'm just a simple engineer. Sometimes the simplest humans have qualities others do not notice," Luma replied. He didn't have much time to think about it. The ship's course had already been adjusted toward Leora's world, a vibrant planet in the Andar cluster known for its advanced cities, brilliant scholars, and curious citizens. Ethan had heard rumors of their fascination with humans, but this was the first direct contact. The journey took several days, during which Ethan tried to imagine what an alien would think of him. Humans were clumsy sometimes, overly emotional, and prone to mistakes, but they had creativity, empathy, and resourcefulness. Maybe that was what the aliens were curious about. When the Odyssey entered Leora's planet's orbit, Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Below him stretched a city of shining towers, curving like glass ribbons under the soft glow of twin suns. The streets were lined with hovering gardens, glowing rivers, and bridges that seemed to float in mid-air. Strange, graceful shapes moved along the streets. Creatures with luminous skin, wings that shimmered like liquid silver, and eyes that reflected light like precious gems. And then he saw her. Leora stood on a platform extending from one of the tallest towers. Her tall, elegant frame glowed faintly in the sunlight. Her skin was pale lavender, her hair a cascading silver that seemed almost alive, shifting with the light. But it was her eyes that caught Ethan. They were a deep amethyst, intelligent and curious, and they seemed to look directly into his soul. "You must be Ethan," she said, her voice musical, carrying through the comms. There was no need for translation, her language was already adapted for him. "I am Leora. I've been waiting." Ethan swallowed hard. Hi. I'm Ethan." His voice sounded small in the vast observation deck. "You are curious, I see," Leora said with a smile that was both playful and confident. "Curiosity is good. It is one of the traits that makes humans interesting." Leora. Ethan shuffled forward, unsure how to respond. "Interesting? That's nice, I guess. So, why me?" "Because," Leora said, stepping closer, "you are human, and humans are undervalued. I wish to understand why." The concept puzzled Ethan. Undervalued? I mean, sure, humans make mistakes. We're not perfect. But we have our strengths. "Exactly," Leora said, eyes twinkling, "and I wish to see those strengths firsthand." Over the next few hours, she guided Ethan through the initial customs of her world. Every interaction had layers of meaning, gestures, and subtle signals. Ethan fumbled constantly, bowing when he shouldn't, speaking when silence was expected, smiling at the wrong moments. Yet Leora never seemed annoyed. Instead, she laughed lightly, correcting him with patience and gentle humor. "You humans are amusing," she said at one point, observing him struggle to operate a floating transport platform. Your bodies are not designed for elegance, yet you find your own way. That is admirable. Ethan blushed. I'm just trying not to fall flat on my face. You succeed more than you think, she replied. As the day wore on, Ethan began to notice the subtle ways he impressed Leora. When they encountered an obstacle, a broken guidance array in the floating gardens, Ethan instinctively began tinkering, using simple human tools in creative ways. He balanced circuits with a piece of wire, rerouted energy flow with a makeshift connector, and finally restored the array. Leora's eyes widened in surprise and delight. You did that, without formal instruction? She asked. Ethan shrugged. I just tried what made sense to me. That is very human, Leora said. You improvise. You adapt. That is rare among more structured species. By the time night fell, the sky above the city glimmered with 1 billion stars, reflected in the rivers and buildings below. Ethan sat beside Leora on the edge of a sky bridge, marveling at the beauty and complexity of her world. He still felt out of place, but the alien had a way of making him feel recognized. Do you enjoy being undervalued? Leora asked suddenly, looking at him. Ethan laughed nervously. I'm not sure I do, but I guess it depends on who notices you. She tilted her head, eyes glinting. Then, consider me your observer. For now. I will notice you, Ethan. And perhaps others will too, eventually. Something warmed in his chest. In a universe where humans were often underestimated, here was an alien woman who genuinely wanted to see his worth. Not his strength, not his power, not his status, just him. Leora reached out a hand, delicate yet strong. Come with me, she said. I wish to show you more. There is much you can teach, and much you can learn. This world is challenging, but rewarding. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then smiled. Lead the way. That simple decision marked the beginning of an unexpected adventure. Together, they stepped into a world full of alien wonders, cultural puzzles, and subtle lessons about value, creativity, and trust. As they moved through the city, Ethan found himself thinking about humans differently. Maybe being undervalued wasn't entirely a bad thing. Maybe it meant there was more to surprise the universe with. And from Leora's perspective, she had discovered something rare. A human male who could navigate her world with curiosity, humor, and ingenuity. She didn't just want to observe him, she wanted to understand him. To see what humans were truly capable of. The stars above twinkled like distant promises, and the hum of the city below matched the hum of Ethan's heart. Somewhere between curiosity and admiration, the first spark of a remarkable bond had begun. Tomorrow, Leora promised, would be even more challenging. She had plans for him, tests of wit, puzzles of logic, adventures that would stretch the limits of his human mind. And through them, Ethan would begin to understand the value of his kind in a universe that often overlooked them. For now, though, he simply marveled at the strange, beautiful world and the alien who had chosen him. The journey had begun. Ethan blinked as Leora led him through the floating streets of her city. Every corner was alive with motion and light. Hovering vehicles glided silently above glowing walkways. Transparent tubes carried streams of sparkling liquid that nourished the hanging gardens. Aliens of every shape and color moved with grace and purpose. It was beautiful and completely overwhelming. Don't worry, Leora said, noticing the way Ethan's eyes darted around, taking everything in at once. It is not expected for visitors to understand everything immediately. Curiosity is enough. Terracing. Ethan took a deep breath. Okay. Curiosity is my specialty, I guess. But I feel like a mouse in a library full of gods. Leora laughed softly, a musical sound that made Ethan grin despite himself. You humans are amusing. So earnest. So direct. That is part of your charm. 17. So Flan. 17. Leora. Their first stop was a local market, though it was nothing like any market Ethan had seen on Earth. Stalls hovered in midair, suspended by invisible fields. Vendors offered items that shimmered, glowed, or even sang. Some were edible, some were tools, and some were tiny constructs that seemed almost alive. "Try this," Leora said, handing him a small, luminescent sphere. "It is a fruit of my world. It nourishes body and mind. Taste it." Ethan hesitated but then bit into it. The taste was indescribable, sweet, tangy, and slightly fizzy, like a memory of sunlight. He laughed aloud. "Wow. That's amazing. You like it," Leora observed, smiling. "Humans often underestimate simple pleasures. That is another reason you are undervalued. You focus on survival or logic, yet your senses are a strength you rarely notice." Ethan nodded slowly. He never thought of taste or simple experiences as a skill, but perhaps in an alien world, they were. As they walked, Leora introduced him to her people. Ethan struggled to remember all their names, their gestures, and their unusual ways of speaking. One alien bowed 3 times, another tilted its head in a pattern he could barely copy. He tripped once on a floating step, causing a ripple of laughter not mean-spirited, but genuine amusement. "You see?" Leora said, guiding him upright. They moved to a park-like area where hovering platforms acted as stages for performances. Aliens danced, manipulated light, and created shapes from thin air. Ethan watched, fascinated, as an elder weaved a story entirely through patterns of glowing threads. "You can do something like this?" Ethan asked hesitantly. "I can try," Leora replied, her hands moving in elegant motions. A few threads of light formed between her fingers, shaping a simple, glowing flower. Ethan gasped. "That's beautiful." "AT. You humans create differently," Leora said. "You use materials, tools, even words to shape ideas. You improvise. That is why I wish to study you. You show ingenuity in ways my species rarely does." Ethan thought about it. On Earth, humans built machines, wrote stories, composed music, all from limited resources. Maybe that creativity was more than just entertainment. Maybe it was a gift. "Would you like to try?" Leora asked suddenly, pointing to a panel with floating geometric shapes. "It is a common exercise for young aliens. You must arrange these forms to balance energy flow." Ethan scratched his head. "Balance energy flow? Okay, let's see." He hesitated, then started experimenting. Shapes moved under his hands, glowing softly. At first, nothing worked. Then he remembered a principle from his engineering days on Earth. He rotated a triangle differently, adjusted a sphere, and suddenly the whole formation stabilized, radiating a gentle light. Leora's eyes widened. "Remarkable. You humans, you think differently. Not as we expect, but sometimes better." Ethan smiled, feeling a small surge of pride. It was the first time an entire species had openly admired his abilities, not for strength, speed, or power, but for thought and intuition. "Now," Leora said, her voice playful, "let us explore the learning halls. There is much knowledge, and you are to see how humans can contribute." The learning halls were immense structures that glowed softly, filled with hovering information crystals. Leora led him to a crystal that displayed a holographic puzzle, a network of moving lights representing communication flows across multiple worlds. "Your task," Leora explained, "is to find the optimal path for connection. Many aliens have tried for decades without solving it." Ethan stared at the lights. They shifted too quickly, patterns overlapping, connections changing. For a moment, he panicked. But then he took a deep breath, thinking of problem-solving strategies he had used on Earth. Trial and error, observation, and adaptation. He moved one light, then another, slowly creating a simple chain of links. The system stabilized. Lights glowed steady. The network balanced. "You solved it!" Leora exclaimed, clapping her hands. "In minutes! Your approach. Humans are undervalued because your methods are not conventional. But effectiveness matters more than convention." Ethan laughed, scratching the back of his head. "Sense," Leora said softly, "is something humans excel at. You improvise, adapt, and think outside expectations. That is why I chose to meet you. Ethan, you are a living example of what humans can do." The day passed quickly. Ethan learned to navigate alien customs, tried unusual foods, solved more puzzles, and even participated in a minor festival where aliens celebrated light and sound. Every step, Leora guided him with patience, correcting mistakes with gentle humor. As night fell, the city transformed. Lights shimmered in complex patterns, reflecting off the rivers and towers. Hovering lanterns moved with the wind, creating a serene, dreamlike landscape. Ethan stood on a balcony with Leora, looking out over the glowing city. "You seem comfortable now," Leora observed. "I am," Ethan admitted. "It's amazing here. I didn't expect any of this. It's kind of overwhelming, but in a good way. You are learning quickly. Humans are undervalued because others see what is different as weak or clumsy. But your mind, your creativity, your adaptability, these are strengths my species rarely values enough." Ethan nodded slowly, thinking about Earth. Humans often felt small in the vast universe, overlooked by stronger, faster, more advanced species. But maybe that was the wrong perspective. Maybe humanity's value was quiet, subtle, and powerful in ways others didn't notice. "Do you think humans are ready for the universe?" Ethan asked, curiosity shining in his eyes. Leora smiled, her gaze soft. "Humans are always ready. They just do not always realize it. That is why I am here to show, not to tell, and to learn as well. You have much to teach, Ethan." Ethan felt a warmth he had not expected. Leora's words were not condescending or patronizing. They were genuine. In a universe where humans were often overlooked, he had found someone who truly valued him not for strength or status or power, but for who he was. "That's encouraging," Ethan said, smiling. "I think I'm going to like this place." "I am certain you will," Leora said, her eyes twinkling. "Tomorrow, we begin more structured learning. There are challenges you have yet to see, tasks that will test your mind, your creativity, and your patience. Are you ready?" Ethan laughed, rubbing his hands together. "I guess there's no backing out now." "No backing out," Leora confirmed, extending her hand. "But there is discovery, and laughter, and understanding. That is what makes life meaningful, even across the stars." Ethan took her hand, feeling a strange sense of excitement and nervousness. Together, they would explore a universe full of unknowns, solving puzzles, learning from each other, and proving that even the simplest humans could shine in ways others failed to see. As he looked out at the sparkling city below, Ethan felt a quiet thrill. For the first time, he understood that being undervalued was not a limitation, it was an opportunity. And with Leora's guidance, he would show the universe what humans could truly offer. The adventure had only begun, and the galaxy seemed full of promise. The morning sun of Leora's planet rose in soft hues of lavender and gold, casting a gentle glow over the floating city. Ethan adjusted his uniform for the day, a simple suit designed to allow human movement without hindrance. He was no longer as nervous as the first day he had learned some customs, navigated floating platforms, and even solved a few of the alien puzzles. But today, Leora warned, would be different. "You are ready for challenges," she said, her amethyst eyes gleaming. "Not all will be simple. You will need patience, creativity, and careful observation. Are you prepared? Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervous energy. I'll try my best. Good. Leora led him to a wide, open plaza, filled with strange crystalline structures that reflected the sunlight in dazzling patterns. Several aliens were already there, observing silently. They did not speak, but their attention was keen, making Ethan feel both important and slightly exposed. This is the first test, Leora explained. You will navigate a network of pathways across the plaza. Some are visible, others are hidden. Many humans would struggle because the solution is not obvious. Observe carefully. Ethan surveyed the plaza. Transparent bridges crisscrossed in complex patterns. Some glowed faintly, others were invisible until touched. He took a deep breath and stepped onto the first visible bridge. It was stable, but he noticed a slight hum, a vibration indicating energy flow beneath. Follow the vibrations, Leora said, watching him with interest. Ethan placed his hand lightly on the surface of the next path, feeling the subtle hums. He adjusted his steps, sensing which bridges were safe. When he reached a gap with no visible connection, he paused. He noticed that the air itself shimmered faintly, a hint that an invisible bridge existed. Closing his eyes for a moment, he reached out and stepped carefully, finding his balance on the invisible pathway. You humans rely on intuition, Leora observed aloud. That is rare. Many alien species rely only on logic and pattern. Your ability to trust your senses is remarkable. Ethan smiled, feeling proud. I guess I just have to feel my way through it. Once across the plaza, they encountered the next challenge. A large, hovering orb, filled with rotating rings, each inscribed with glowing symbols. Leora explained, "This is a puzzle of sequence. Align the rings to open the pathway ahead." Ethan studied the rings, noticing that the symbols moved in a rhythm. Others might have tried to force the solution quickly, but he remembered how he solved problems on Earth, observing, trying small adjustments, and learning from each mistake. Slowly, he rotated the rings one by one. When he aligned the correct sequence, the orb emitted a soft chime and floated aside, revealing a clear path forward. Leora clapped softly. Excellent. You see, patterns. Humans recognize differently. Your approach is not wrong, it is human. Ethan laughed. I'm glad that's a compliment. As they progressed, the tests became more interactive. He was asked to solve problems that required collaboration, improvisation, and patience. At one point, Leora presented a task that involved arranging a series of floating lights to match an evolving musical rhythm. Ethan had no musical training, yet he instinctively noticed the patterns, tapping the lights in time with their pulses. The sequence completed perfectly, and Leora raised an eyebrow in impressed surprise. You humans are undervalued because others do not see your adaptability, she said. You improvise. You learn by observing and feeling, not only by following rules. If you want to do in 7. Later, they visited a simulation room, where holographic landscapes presented scenarios of alien societies facing unusual problems. Ethan was asked to assist in managing energy distribution, agricultural flow, and social coordination, all through a combination of logic, empathy, and creative thinking. One scenario involved a network of floating gardens that were failing to thrive due to unpredictable light cycles. Aliens who had studied the problem for years could not find a solution. Ethan, observing the patterns of sunlight and the shifting energy fields, suggested altering the sequence of light channels and redistributing energy flows based on intuitive timing. The simulation responded immediately. The gardens flourished. You see? Leora said softly, a proud smile on her face. Even small humans can solve problems that challenge entire species. This is why I claimed you. You are remarkable. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Claimed me? That's a bit much, don't you think? In my culture, Leora explained, to claim someone is not to own them. It is a recognition, a way to show that I value your abilities, your mind, and your unique qualities. It is a way to say, you matter, and I will witness your growth. Ethan considered her words. On Earth, recognition often came through status or achievement, sometimes only after long struggle. Here, it was offered freely, as an acknowledgement of potential and individuality. Okay, he said finally, smiling. I think I can get used to that. The rest of the day was filled with smaller challenges, some playful, some requiring serious thought. Ethan learned to navigate alien etiquette, anticipate reactions to social gestures, and use his human creativity in unexpected ways. Each success earned a small smile from Leora. Each mistake, a gentle correction. By the time evening arrived, the city was bathed in the soft glow of twin moons. Ethan and Leora walked along a suspended pathway overlooking the glowing river. For a long moment, they walked in silence, each lost in thought. You know, Ethan said at last, I never thought I would find a place where humans are really appreciated. Even if it's just by one alien, it feels different. Leora's gaze softened. Humans are always undervalued, where others fail to see their qualities. But one observer can sometimes change perspectives. One person can witness, understand, and highlight what others miss. That is the power of recognition. Ethan nodded slowly, feeling a strange sense of pride. Not for himself alone, but for his species. Maybe humanity was small and overlooked, but it had qualities that could shine in the right light. And for the first time, he had someone who understood that. Tomorrow, Leora said, breaking the quiet, we will leave the city. There is an uncharted region nearby, full of natural puzzles and phenomena. It will be challenging, but I believe humans are capable of much more than they or others realize. Ethan laughed nervously. Uncharted regions? Sounds like fun, and probably a little terrifying. That is part of growth, Leora replied, smiling. Comfort does not create value. Challenge does. As they prepared to leave, Ethan reflected on the day. He had faced puzzles, learned alien customs, and discovered how humans could excel in ways others failed to notice. And through it all, Leora had guided him, teaching without condescension, observing without judgment, and recognizing without conditions. That night, as he lay in the soft, levitating cot provided for human comfort, Ethan stared at the glowing ceiling of the habitat dome. Strange patterns danced above him, shapes that shifted with subtle currents of energy. It was mesmerizing. He thought about what Leora had said. Humans were undervalued, but that did not mean they were weak or incapable. They simply had qualities that required a different perspective to see. And in this universe, perspective was everything. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly seen. Not as a weak or ordinary human, but as someone with value, creativity, and the potential to impress even the most advanced alien minds. Tomorrow, the challenges would continue. He would explore unknown lands, solve problems no one else could, and perhaps even surprise himself. But tonight, he allowed himself a small smile. He was a human, undervalued yet full of potential. And Leora, the alien who had chosen to notice him, believed in that potential. And somehow, that made all the difference. The galaxy outside the habitat shimmered, vast and endless, full of puzzles, wonders, and discoveries. Ethan could hardly wait to step into it, hand in hand with the alien who had claimed him not as property, but as a witness to human ingenuity. Adventure awaited, and for the first time, he felt ready. The sky above Leora's planet was painted in streaks of violet and gold as Ethan stepped out onto the observation platform. Today, they were not confined to the city. Leora had promised him something new. A journey to the Interplanetary Forum. a place where representatives from multiple alien worlds gathered to share knowledge, culture, and discoveries. "You will see how your species is perceived outside my city," Leora said, her eyes bright with anticipation. "It is a different perspective, and you will learn much." Ethan adjusted his jacket nervously. Interplanetary forums were grand affairs, he had heard, but he had never imagined the sheer scale. The platform they stood on lifted smoothly into the sky, moving toward a massive structure floating above the clouds, a palace of glass and light that shimmered with countless hues. As they entered the forum, Ethan's eyes widened. Delegates of all shapes and colors mingled, exchanging glowing objects, creating floating projections of art, and performing brief displays of skill. The air was filled with energy, curiosity, and anticipation. "First impressions matter," Leora reminded him. "Watch, listen, and respond thoughtfully. Humans are rarely present in such gatherings. How you behave will influence perception." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He nodded politely to each delegate they passed, using the gestures Leora had taught him. It was difficult at first. Some bowed in patterns he could barely follow. Others communicated through light pulses, but Leora's guidance kept him grounded. They reached a platform where a holographic council had gathered. Leora introduced Ethan to the representatives. "This is Ethan, a human. Observe his methods, learn from him, and appreciate his creativity." Some delegates raised their heads curiously, their eyes flickering with interest. Ethan realized that, for the first time, he was not just an observer. He was the subject of study. And yet, he did not feel intimidated. Instead, he felt valued. The first challenge presented itself almost immediately. A complex energy network in the forum had begun to fluctuate, causing minor disruptions in communication and lighting. Alien engineers had attempted to stabilize it for hours without success. "Ethan," Leora said, "your task is simple in concept. Find stability. Use your human approach. Observe first, then act." Ethan stepped forward, examining the network. It was intricate, full of overlapping signals and fluctuating currents. He recalled how he solved problems on Leora's city puzzles, small observations, intuition, and testing ideas carefully. Slowly, he traced the paths of the currents, noted the weak links, and suggested redistributing energy flow, using a method no alien had considered. To his surprise, it worked. The network stabilized, lights glowed steadily, and communication signals became clear. A wave of appreciation swept across the forum. Some delegates floated closer, curious, asking questions about his process. "Your methods are unorthodox," an elder alien said, its translucent skin shimmering softly. "Yet effective. Humans are indeed undervalued, if this is typical of your species." Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I just try to find solutions that make sense to me." Leora's eyes shone. "Exactly. That is why humans can surprise the universe. You do not always follow expectation, but you find results. That is valuable." After the network challenge, the forum shifted to cultural demonstrations. Ethan observed alien dances, musical harmonics, and visual displays of light and thought. Leora encouraged him to participate, showing him how to create patterns with simple gestures and sounds. At first, Ethan stumbled, unsure of timing and technique. But slowly, he learned to match rhythms and shapes, blending human improvisation with alien precision. Delegates watched in fascination as a human added unique flair to a centuries-old tradition, enhancing it rather than disrupting it. "Humans add perspective," Leora said proudly. "You show what others do not see. That is why I value your presence." By mid-afternoon, Ethan began to feel confident. He moved through demonstrations, contributed ideas, and solved small logistical problems. Delegates approached him, not to correct him, but to learn from him. For the first time in his life, he realized that being undervalued could also mean being underestimated, and that humans had untapped potential that could shine in unexpected ways. During a break, Leora and Ethan stood overlooking the forum from a balcony. "You've done well," Leora said softly. "You have shown humans are more than they are given credit for. Your species is creative, adaptable, and resilient." Ethan smiled. "I'm just me. But it feels good to finally be seen that way." "Being seen is the first step," Leora said. "Next comes respect, and then understanding. That is what you have earned today." Their conversation was interrupted by a new challenge, a communication test involving multiple species. Each participant was tasked with relaying a complex message using both visual and auditory cues, some conventional, others abstract. Many aliens struggled to interpret the human methods Ethan suggested. But the results were clear. He found solutions that were faster, more accurate, and often more elegant. Delegates began to nod and murmur approval. Some even smiled, a subtle sign of recognition in their culture. Ethan could feel the shift. Humans were no longer just a curiosity. He was no longer just a visitor. This, he was respected. As evening fell, the forum held a ceremonial gathering. Floating lanterns drifted overhead, casting soft light across the assembly. Leora presented Ethan formally to the council, praising his creativity, patience, and adaptability. "You see," Leora said, turning to him with a smile, "this is how recognition changes perception. One observer, one person, can illuminate the value of another species. Today, you have shown what humans can achieve when given attention and trust." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. I don't know what to say. I never thought humans could be recognized like this in an alien society." "You humans are always ready to impress," Leora said. "Sometimes others simply fail to notice." The ceremony ended with quiet applause and nods from delegates. Ethan felt proud, not arrogant. He knew he was just one human among billions, but proud that his species had potential that could be appreciated in ways the universe often overlooked. Later, as they returned to the floating city, "I think I'm starting to understand. Being undervalued doesn't mean we're weak. It means we have qualities that require a different perspective to see." Leora nodded. "Exactly. And you have proven that one human, recognized and understood, can make a difference. Your presence has shifted perception today." Ethan grinned. "That's a lot of pressure for one person." "No pressure," Leora said gently. "Only opportunity. You are not just an observer anymore, Ethan. You are a participant, a teacher, and a friend. And I value that." Ethan felt his chest swell slightly. Friendship and respect, these were things he had rarely experienced fully on Earth. Where humans were judged by strength, status, or material achievement. Here, he was judged by his mind, his creativity, and his willingness to learn. "That actually feels really good," he admitted. And remember, and win, 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 and win. "It should," Leora said, smiling warmly. "Humans deserve to feel valued. And you, individually, have shown that they can be." As night fully settled over the city, Ethan and Leora walked through quiet streets, lit by soft, glowing orbs. The air was filled with gentle music and the hum of energy. It was peaceful, but vibrant, a perfect reflection of the world they had explored together. "Tomorrow," Leora said, "we will begin preparations for the next adventure. There are natural landscapes beyond the city forests that float in air currents, rivers that glow with bioluminescent life, and creatures that interact with energy fields. They will challenge your mind and senses in ways the city could not. Ethan laughed, a mix of excitement and nervousness. I think I'm ready. Or at least, I'll do my best. That is enough, Leora said softly. It is always enough. Humans underestimate themselves. You have proven that your abilities, your perspective, and your curiosity are valuable. That is the true lesson. Ethan looked out over the city, thinking about the journey so far. From the moment he first met Leora, he had faced puzzles, learned alien customs, and discovered a world where humans were not just tolerated, but appreciated. And tomorrow promised even more discovery, more challenge, and more chances to demonstrate what humanity could achieve. For the first time, he felt a quiet confidence, a sense that humans, though often overlooked, could shine brightly in the universe when given recognition, trust, and opportunity. And by his side, Leora walked a guide, a mentor, and a friend who believed in him, and by extension, in humanity. Together, they would continue to explore, learn, and prove that even the simplest human could leave a mark on the stars. The galaxy awaited. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the floating forests outside Leora's city. Ethan stretched, feeling the thrill of a new day. Today was different. Leora had promised that he would see not only the wonders of her world, but also the uncharted regions beyond the city, places few aliens, and certainly few humans, had ever explored. You are ready, Leora said, her eyes sparkling. Today, your creativity, curiosity, and perspective will be tested more than ever. Are you prepared? Ethan laughed, adjusting his jacket. As ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this. They boarded a small, hovering craft that glided smoothly into the sky. Below, the city shimmered like a jewel. But soon, the landscape changed. Floating islands drifted lazily through the clouds. Rivers of glowing water twisted through the air, and strange plants swayed without wind, following currents of unseen energy. The entire world felt alive, humming softly as if welcoming them. This region is alive, Leora explained. It is not dangerous, but it challenges perception and intuition. Humans are often more adaptable in such environments because you rely on creativity and instinct. Let us see how well that serves you today. Their first task came quickly. A series of floating energy bridges spanned a wide chasm between two islands. Some bridges were stable, others shifted, and a few only appeared when energy pulses matched the surrounding flow. Ethan hesitated, studying the subtle vibrations and shifts in light. Trust your instincts, Leora said. Observe patterns. Adapt. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward. The first bridge responded perfectly under his weight. The second tilted slightly, but he adjusted his balance. The third pulsed with energy. Closing his eyes for a moment, he felt the rhythm of the currents and stepped confidently onto it. Each bridge followed, adapting to his movement, as if acknowledging his understanding. You humans can sense flow in ways others cannot, Leora said quietly, impressed. Your intuition, it is remarkable. After the bridges, they encountered a grove of floating plants, each glowing with bioluminescent patterns. The challenge was simple in concept. Arrange the plants in a pattern that stabilized the energy flow of the grove. But as Ethan studied the plants, he realized that each had subtle energy interactions that required careful observation, timing, and improvisation. He hesitated, then began experimenting. He rotated a plant here, nudged another there, and observed the interactions. Slowly, the grove pulsed with steady energy, glowing brighter as stability returned. Leora clapped softly. See, she said. Humans improvise. You adapt. That is why your species is undervalued in other societies. You do not always follow rules, but you achieve results. That is real strength. Ethan smiled, feeling both pride and a deep sense of wonder. Everywhere he looked, this world challenged expectations, and yet he felt capable. Leora had chosen wisely. As the day continued, they explored floating rivers, glowing caves, and forests where the air itself shimmered with energy. Each new challenge demanded observation, intuition, and creative problem-solving. Ethan's human perspective, often overlooked in other societies, proved invaluable. Where aliens had relied on rigid logic, he applied imagination. Where they followed rules, he trusted his instincts. Time and again, his solutions succeeded. By evening, the floating islands glowed with soft lights, and Ethan felt a calm satisfaction. They rested on a ledge, overlooking the rivers of light, the air filled with the gentle hum of energy. "You have done remarkably well today," Leora said, her voice soft but proud. "You have shown your capabilities not only to me, but to this world, and soon, to the wider galaxy." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, curious. "There is a council meeting tonight," Leora explained. "Representatives from many worlds will witness the outcomes of your achievements today. You will be recognized, Ethan, not just as an individual, but as a representative of humans. Your species' potential will be seen in ways it rarely has." Ethan's heart raced. Recognition, respect, not just for himself, but for humanity. He had never imagined it possible. That night, they arrived at the council chamber, a grand space suspended in air and light. Aliens of countless forms filled the room, some glowing, some translucent, some with shapes beyond his understanding. Yet, despite the strangeness, Ethan felt calm. Leora's presence grounded him. Leora stepped forward, presenting Ethan formally. "Delegates," she began, "I present Ethan, a human. Today, he has demonstrated creativity, intuition, adaptability, and insight, qualities often overlooked in your assessment of humans. Observe, learn, and recognize their potential." Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "Thank you. I am just one human. But humans are curious, adaptable, and creative. We solve problems, learn from mistakes, and help each other grow." A hush fell over the chamber. Then, one by one, delegates nodded, their gestures signaling acknowledgement and respect. Some approached Ethan, asking questions, seeking advice, and showing genuine interest in human methods. "You see," Leora said softly, "recognition changes perception. You have shifted views today. Humans are no longer overlooked here." Quote, Ethan felt a warm sense of pride. Not for himself alone, but for all humans. For once, he realized that being undervalued could be turned into an opportunity. Humans had unique qualities, and when noticed, they could shine brighter than any species. After the council, Ethan and Leora returned to the floating city. The night was calm. Stars reflected in rivers below, and the gentle hum of energy filled the air. "You know," Ethan said, smiling at Leora, "I never thought humans could be appreciated like this. Not in an alien society. Not in a place like this." "They can," Leora replied, her voice soft. "They just need someone to notice, to guide, and to trust. You have shown that humans matter, and you have proven it through action." Ethan thought about Earth, about all the times humans were overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed. But here, in this vibrant, alien world, his species had been seen for what it truly was. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Not just for guiding me, but for believing humans have value. It means a lot." Leora smiled. "It is not just belief. It is observation. Humans are capable of much more than they realize. And now, the universe has seen it too." For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the glowing rivers and floating islands below. A sense of calm and hope filled the air. Tomorrow would bring more adventures, more discoveries, and new opportunities to explore the unknown. "Where to next?" Ethan asked, a spark of excitement in his eyes. Leora laughed softly. "The universe is vast. We have only touched the surface. There are planets yet uncharted, species yet unstudied, and challenges that will test the limits of human creativity. Together, we will explore them all." Ethan grinned. "I think I'm ready." "Always," Leora replied. "You have shown that humans can shine not because they are the strongest, but because they think differently, adapt creatively, and approach challenges with courage and curiosity. That is your power, Ethan. That is humanity's power." As they prepared to leave the city for the next adventure, Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had proven himself not just to Leora, but to a galaxy that often overlooked his kind. He had demonstrated that humans, though small and underestimated, could leave a lasting mark through ingenuity, observation, and perseverance. And with Leora at his side, he knew that no challenge was too great, no puzzle too complex, and no world too strange. Together, they would continue to explore, to learn, and to show the universe the value of humans. The stars stretched endlessly above them, promising adventure, discovery, and the joy of shared curiosity. Ethan felt ready for all of it. For the first time, he understood what Leora had seen in humans all along: potential that could not be measured by strength, speed, or power, but by creativity, thought, and the courage to explore the unknown. And in that understanding, Ethan felt the thrill of true recognition. The recognition of what it meant to be human in a universe that had only just begun to notice. The galaxy awaited,